Environmentalist. I know, in some crowds this is a bad word. It's a solar-loving, tree-hugging person who cares more about the dirt under your feet than you. Well, I mean, at least that's the stereotype. Hi friends, welcome back or welcome to my channel. There's a lot going on here, mostly revolving around the word sustainability. So if that's something that's up your alley, go ahead and subscribe, and make sure to subscribe to my mailing list, which you'll find in the description. But today we'll be talking about 3 big questions. Who has been called an environmentalist thus far? Why would you want to use the term environmentalist? And should we continue labeling people as environmentalists, or is it time to let the term go? People have been raving about and trying to protect the world we live on for quite some time now. Some say that the religion Jainism was one of the original environmental guidelines for a good life. The environmentalist movement today can be traced back with shaky lines to the Romantics, especially seen through the word sublime, which, yes, you could use as a dinner party term, saying that, oh, your vegan lasagna is sublime. But the real reason, or the real usage in old times, was used to describe a landscape that was grand and created by a big creator in a religious context. It was a kind of landscape that was almost terrifying and dizzying because of its grandeur. Following the Romantics came the conservationists who, they just wanted to hang out with their buds in an empty forest because it's not like people had lived there for centuries and called it home. Skipping forward a little bit, Thoreau contributed some fun prose with Walden. The first national park was founded in 1872, and skipping forward even more, going to the 1970s, the political and environmental parties were all the groovy rage. Also in the 1970s, you've got the Chipko movement, which is an Indian woman movement of rural villagers who literally hugged trees as a nonviolent form of protest to keep them from being chopped down. And that's it. That's the entire history of environmentalism. Obviously, I kid. There's so much that I left out and so much that I couldn't talk about, but I really chose pieces that would be relevant to what we're going to be talking about later in this video. But just remember that any source that you ever read from will have to leave details out, and the source will contain bias. And bias in itself isn't a bad thing. It's just something that you need to be aware of, and some sources are more biased than others, obviously. We've all got an idea about what an environmentalist is and does, but they're probably pretty different. So let's go to the textbook definitions, and we'll start with my least favorite. An environmentalist is a person who is concerned with protecting and preserving the natural environment, for example, by preventing pollution. Pretty underwhelming. Next. An environmentalist is a person who may speak out about our natural environment and the sustainable management of its resources through changes in public policy or individual behavior. Okay, we're getting closer, but this is still not the best. So there's one more that I want to share, and it's a bit long, but I think it's important. Environmentalism is a political and ethical movement that seeks to improve and protect the quality of the natural environment through changes to environmentally harmful human activities, through the adoption of forms of political, economic, and social organization, and through a reassessment of humanity's relationship with nature. And this is, I think, the best of the definitions because it really touches on the political aspect and the cultural aspect. But the best definition of all can definitely be seen through this picture is 1,000 words, TikTok. I want you to go and make it with me. I feel alright, I'm gonna take on the world. My hashtag more than straws senses are tingling. Now that we've got these textbook definitions down, let's dive into more of who has been seen or who has been touted as an environmentalist, starting with a few jazzy people. Berta Cáceres was a Honduran environmental activist who focused on indigenous people's rights. Habiba Sabari, the first female governor in Afghanistan who also created the first national park there. Wangari Maathai founded the Green Belt Movement, an environmental non-governmental organization focused on the planting of trees, environmental conservation, and women's rights. Vandana Shiva promotes biodiversity and agriculture to increase productivity, nutrition, and farmers' incomes. She's a philosopher and an ultra-globalizationist. Marina Silva, a Brazilian politician and environmentalist who grew up in the Amazon rainforest state of Acre. Greta Thunberg, a climate activist who at 15 started hashtag Fridays for the Future climate strikes. Are these the kind of people you were expecting to see and who match your stereotyped version of an environmentalist? Let me know in the comments. And I know what you're saying. Sarah, fine and dandy, thank you for telling me about these really cool people, but myself, I'm not an environmentalist and I never will be. Let's do some digging and find out why by looking at how other people react to the environmentalism movement and the environmentalist identity. A study done for the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences wanted to reveal the public perceptions of the environmental concerns of various socio-demographic groups. So they asked different people to really rate the environmental concern of different classes and ethnicities in the United States, and then rate their own community, and then rate themselves on environmental concern. They found that white respondents associated environmentalism more with whites than non-whites, which is wild but unsurprising. As we hopefully know, environmental problems impact and will impact lower income and minority communities much more than white communities. So it's unsurprising, at least I think, that these communities will have individual self-reported higher concern than white communities. But what got me was that minority and lower income communities also rated their own communities less environmentally concerned than white communities, even if they rated themselves high on environmental concern. Why does this matter? When someone cares about environmental problems but perceives that their community doesn't care, they're less likely to talk about it with other members of their community. And this is where the term environmentalist comes in, because if someone self-reports that they're environmentalist or is known in the community as an environmentalist, will it be more likely that these people will be talking about environmental issues because there's less fear of that going against a group norm? Food for thought. Another reason to look deeper at the term environmentalist is the fancy power of self-perception theory. Basically, we act in ways to strengthen who our behaviors suggest we are. Another way of saying it, when our minds aren't made up on an issue, we check our actions for ideas on our values. An example, someone asks you, are you a country fan? And you've never really thought about the question before, but you're watching the Old Town Road music video for the 50th time and think, well, I'm watching a country video. I like this video, so I must be a country fan. In an environmental context, researchers found that when you label someone's past actions as being environmentalist, it strengthens that identity that they have, and they're more likely to think of themselves as, I'm an environmentalist. My actions suggest I am. And with that label comes a whole set of behavioral and attitudinal expectations. Another study found that attaching an identity with the word environmentalist leads to an intrinsic motivation for your behaviors. You'll feel morally obligated to act in an environmental manner with no incentive necessary. This is important because some of the external reasons for acting environmentally conscious, like solar rebates or cash for recycling, sometimes undermine the intrinsic motivation to act in an environmental manner. Yeah, fine, cool, we love academia, but this is the real world, and a lot of people don't want the association with the militant ideologies of eco-terrorism or the destructive white dudes of environmentalism's past who have a very creepy relationship with nature, like why is it Mother Earth and her fertility and her beauty? I'm just a rational gal who doesn't want to see the world burn. Honestly, you'd be right. Environmentalism is too focused on nature and not enough on people. The truth is that some people will never care about streams or coral reefs or the 1 million species that are at risk of extinction because of human-caused climate change. And while I wish that people did have that sense of interconnectedness that people make fun of environmentalists for, I know that at the end of the day, people care about other people, generally those who they're close to. And that's not a bad thing in itself. So as long as the general term environmentalist keeps excluding the environmental justice movement and avoids talking about the human cost of climate change, then I'm not sure it's the right term to be using. But if we avoid the term environmentalist because of all the bad associations with it, then we kind of miss out on all the social psych benefits that I've talked about. But what other term can we use when we're talking about this stuff? Are we environmental justice advocates, climate change carers, or are we just humans who are living on a planet and want to help other humans, but also hopefully allow other species to thrive as well? But who the fuck doesn't want that? I don't know. And I'd love your take on this. What do you call yourself? Let me know in the comments down below. Maybe we can brainstorm a bit and come up with a better, cooler term to use. Your action item this week is to have a 10-minute conversation with someone that you haven't about climate change. If you like this content and want to see more, consider subscribing. I post new videos almost every week here on this channel, and I would love to add more members to our community. If you need clarification on anything that I talked about this video, I am all ears, and if not, I will see you next time, friends. Environmentalist.